Now, there are a million ways to light a scene, and I'm not saying that this is the best way to light a scene because it isn't. The best way to light a scene is whatever way best communicates the story. In fact, if you want to know more about that, go to the video down below. But no, today I'm going to be talking and covering how to light what is traditionally called the cinematic look. And of course, if you want more tutorials that'll help you take your lighting to the next level, subscribe to Aperture, hit that notification bell. Tip 1. Use your key light to make a brightest part of your frame. Now, step 1 for lighting the cinematic look is to use a soft key light that isolates the most important part of your frame. If you have actors, this will usually be someone's face. Now, why is this important? Well, as we know, since our eyes are drawn to the brightest part of any frame, by giving your audience a clear, bright place to look, your lighting guides the eyes of your audience in a clear and concise way, telling them where to look. Number 2, go low key. If we're talking about 3-point lighting, this means either lowering or completely removing your fill light. Generally speaking, while your fill light is important when you're shooting corporate videos or comedies where lighting is intended to look naturalistic, if you're going for the cinematic look, it generally looks a little more dramatic to have less fill and less lighting in your shadows. Now, this will give your subject more contrast in the lighting, which again, while it may not always be the correct choice based on the story, is generally considered to be more cinematic and beautiful. Tip number 3, shoot into the shadows. Now, this tip is super simple. Basically, if you're shooting a subject, especially an actor or an actress's face, the tip is to design your scene so that your camera is shooting into the opposite side of where your frontal key light is coming from. Now, the fundamental idea is also super simple. Whereas shooting into the lit side will generally result in more even and frontal lighting across your subject because of the angle, by shooting into the shadow, your camera is then positioned in a way that is able to better capture fall off and the shadowy textures that your light is able to make. Number 4, use an edge light. Now, beyond using your key light to make the most important subject the brightest part of your frame, the next step to crafting a traditionally cinematic image is to use an edge light to separate that very subject from the background. Now, the resulting effect is something like a halo or a wraparound light that helps shape and outline where your audience is looking. Tip 5, light for depth. Now that we've carefully emphasized and outlined the most important part of our frame, now is when we can have fun with our background. Generally speaking, since the most cinematic images are the ones that seem to create a sense of space rather than looking flat, you're going to want to create depth with your lighting. Now, the easiest way to do this is by layering your highlights and your shadows through lighting and through space. Now, I know that this sounds complicated, but the underlying goal is simple. Try to light your background elements in a way so that each plane of distance from your camera has a different illuminance value. Now, especially if you can get the highlights and shadows of each plane to contrast each other, the resulting effect will be a picture that possesses the illusion of depth and space. Number 6, add color contrast. Now, whether you like it or not, saturated color contrast is a look that is visually in right now. And this works wonderfully for crafting that traditionally cinematic look. Specifically, the deep blue and orange is perhaps what Hollywood is best known for, but the key takeaway here is to choose any colors that do have strong color contrast. Specifically complementary colors, which can really help make that image pop. Brownie points if you can get these colors to stack in the same way that you would light those highlights and shadows to create depth. Number 7, add texture in your lighting. Now, there are a lot of ways you can do this, but the final 2 touches for creating that traditionally cinematic look in lighting is to add just a little bit of lighting texture. Now, on the lighting side, this could be as simple as using practical lights that are already in the setting, desk lamps, neon signs, or maybe even the headlights of a car in the distance. However, if you don't have those things, you can always try adding your own texture like light slashes, fluorescent tubes, Edison bulbs, or even a string of Christmas lights in the distance to mimic a distant cityscape. Now, if you want to get super stylized, you can consider using a combination of haze and hard light to create shafts and pillars of 3D light. And on the other side, number 8, you can try adding texture in your shadows. The other half of adding texture in lighting is creating visually interesting shadows. Backlighting set design elements like blinds, window frames, or tree branches are all really easy ways to add visually interesting shadows into your scene. Or if you really want to get fancy, you can also try using a cucoloris or a light that accepts gobos to create other interesting shadows into your scene. So there you have it. There's 8 ways to light for the cinematic look, but what's your favorite tip or trick for lighting this look? Leave a comment below and the best trick will win Aperture F7. Don't forget to hit that notification bell, hit that subscribe button. I'm Ted from the A-Team and we'll catch you guys next time.